Hey everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at the updates that I've made to the voxel-based 3D modeling project. I think what I'm going to do is I'll add a few more features and then I'll make the source project available to you guys. It will of course be a non-exclusive license so everyone can use it and everyone can do whatever they want with it. I don't think I'll make a standalone application. I don't think I have that level of commitment. I know we've been over this before. I tend to use projects basically as a teaching method, and then I kind of stop and lose interest when I'm not learning anything more. But at least you guys will have a project that you guys can build upon, that the basic stuff has been taken care of. Anyways, so in the previous video, I mentioned that as far as camera movement, you had left and right rotate, up and down tilt, and then you had zoom in and out. So it was missing a pan horizontally and vertical. So there is now a vertical pan. So it works slightly different than you would expect a pan to work because it does tilt ever so slightly, but it does function effectively as a pan. I'm not going to get into here why that is. I haven't done a deep dive yet on how any of this works, but once I make the project available, then I'll probably do a single video and hit the major points. Okay, so now there's a vertical pan. Horizontal pan will be a little bit harder, but that's one of the things I hope to add before I release it. Okay, so now if you look up here, there used to be one row. Now you have two rows of shapes. So we've added a couple new ones. We've added a column, and yes, the column stacks. Other things can stack on it, and it can stack on other things. We also added a cone. That also can stack. Certain combinations may not look that great, but they can be done. And as far as these two, these technically are not new shapes. What it is, they're rotated versions of this shape. I haven't bothered yet to do an update. All the graphics are just placeholder because again, it's really staking out the code. But whereas this one is rotated that direction, this one is rotated the other direction. So if nothing else, you can make ramps now. And same for this. That one is rotated that way. That one is rotated that way. So ideally, there would be a manual rotation, but for now, at least these two have a fixed 180-degree rotation. So it gives you a little bit more versatility. Because of the way I coded, some of the side attachments work already by default. So without any additional coding, these new shapes work. So it does scale pretty decently to a point, no pun intended. So like if I take this and then I do this, it indeed also rotates. By the way, you could do a traffic light now, so you could do that. So rotates again in a predetermined way, but if you click on this again, so like if I click here, stacks on top of it, so I haven't coded that yet. So we added those two shapes, we added those two rotated versions of the above shapes. So let's see what else we've done. We have added this, and this is actually two functions built into one. So let's delete a few things. Yes, there is a button that says clear all. It doesn't actually do anything. I thought of that at like 10:30 at night. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a button. So I remember that I want something that deletes the entire project. Okay, so with a lot of drawing tools, whether they're 2D or 3D, you usually can make these kind of meta shapes. So you make a shape out of a shape. So if you click on the block and then you click on 9, it should create, oops. Oh, it was on delete, sorry. A 9 by 9 block. And then it, of course, stacks on top of itself. You can stack it wherever. Didn't feel like deleting all that. So clearly there's no undo functionality. That's something that I probably won't add. That's something that you guys would probably add for your versions because honestly, I don't even have the beginning idea of how to do an undo. I could do an undo for certain things like a delete, undo a delete of an object or undo the addition of an object. But as far as everything else, no idea. So I just want to be honest about that. Anyways, so yeah, so you can click on 9 and you can get a shape that's 9 by 9. Sorry, gotta hit 9 after. and you can build them on top of each other. So you could do, so yes, right now it's a little bit finicky that you have to hit the 9 after the block. That just requires me to add a little coding to take care of that. Triangle, you can do a 9 on top of that. So now you could build like, the top of a castle or something, build the top of a tower, a watchtower, whatever. You can certainly delete if you need like entryways and things like that. Okay. So, like I said, this 9 is really two functions in one. You're saying that you want a larger shape that's a diameter of 9, but you're also saying a square. You might not want a square. What if you want this to be in the shape of a large triangle or the shape of a circle, or you just want a line? So this 9 is really two functions in one. It's giving you the size, but it's also giving you only a square. So that means I'm really going to have to add another tool set here. And that it would be, do you want it to be a line? Do you want it to be a square? Do you want it to be a triangle? And since there are so many different tool shapes, what I'm thinking, not just shapes, but so many combined tools, because you have a individual shape, and then you could have a larger shape and size, and then are you adding, deleting, painting? What's the color you're using? So what I might do is I might put some kind of indicator here that shows what the current status is as far as what you've selected in its entirety. I don't think I've seen that in other applications, so that might be a nice touch because using things like Magic of Voxel can be kind of finicky, kind of fiddly. Okay, so we looked at the two new shapes, the rotated versions of those shapes, and we looked at doing the 9 by 9 square of those two shapes. The add, delete, and paint was already in place. So the other thing that I want to mention are these. So as you can see, in addition to colors, you can now have full-on materials. So you can have, or should I say, a material with a texture. So let's just run this again because I don't feel like deleting. So yeah, say you take the block, say you do 9, and you click on wood. There you go. You zoom in. Yes, the wood doesn't look that great. I took maybe 5 minutes to paint it in a paint program because, again, this is all just placeholder. This is carving out the functionality. Then you go back and put in whatever you want as far as the actual images. You can, let's see, let's do 9 again, but we'll do stone on top of it. And then we've got the bricks. So let's do that, and the bricks. There you go. I think the bricks actually look okay. But again, nothing special. I basically just drew them. I use Anime Studio Pro, and I just spent a few minutes drawing them up. It's just a 2D image. It's just a PNG file. I believe I used 256. Well, I have two different images. This thumbnail, I believe, is 256 by 256. The actual texture, I believe, is 512 by 512 because when I was scaling it down, it was making this look terrible. So I have two separate images. So one's the preview and one's the actual texture that's being used in the material. On a side note, again, I haven't really talked about how the coding works, but this wasn't any different than this. So from the user point of view, oh, hey, new functionality. Now I can use an image. You're actually already using a full material here. It's just that only the color was being changed. And that gets into an issue with saving the prefab. I think I mentioned this in the last video that you can save the project. And what was happening is if you try to change the material, some element of it, some attribute of it in real time, like you change the color, it creates an instanced version of that material, and that material does not get saved. So what was happening is when I was saving the prefab, it was all the default pink that tells you that your materials are missing. So what's actually going on is each and every one of these will have a pre-saved material. That way you're using a saved material and not an instanced version of one. So a little of the inside coding there, but I'll cover all that in a separate video. So I think that's about it. I think I covered everything. So the new camera movement, the vertical pan, the two new shapes, the two rotated versions of the shapes that already existed, the 9 by 9 square of the cube and the pyramid. And like I said, I will eventually split that out into two separate tools. One is the size, one is the other tool. So maybe you can make a circle, maybe you can make a line, maybe you can make a triangle, that kind of thing. Oh, and by the way, this is not being calculated in real time. That is actually a pre-made object. I just found it easier to do it that way. So that's something that probably could be modified when you do an optimization. You could have a like a C# script calculate where they should be placed. But even though it's a pre-made object, you can still delete them individually. I think I already showed that earlier. Okay, so I think that's about it for this video. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the comment section. Someone did ask some really great questions. They asked if I was using Pro Builder, if I was modifying it in real time. The answer is no, and I actually have no idea how to do that. That is like way above me. So great question, but I have no idea how to utilize Pro Builder in real time. Basically, I just use Pro Builder to pre-make the shapes, save the shapes, and then that's it. So what I'll probably do in the final version to avoid any limitations with distribution, I'll probably eliminate Pro Builder, and then what I'll do is I will probably just pre-make these in some other application and just make sure that I make it the 1 by 1 by 1 in Unity units. I think that's about it. So again, so I hope you found this useful. I hope you found this helpful. And again, the project will be available soon. I think that once I've split this out into its own two functions as far as size and then shape, and maybe add a couple more shapes at that point is probably when I'll make the project available to you guys, and then you can do whatever you want with it at that point. Okay, so please enjoy the rest of your day.